So today morning, I woke up with a lot of noise and I understood that someone was fighting outside my home. So it was about parking spaces, like someone has parked their vehicle and blocked the way. But while I was listening to them, I realized that a lot of these fights can be easily solved. Like they are not some very uh, rigorous problems, and if we put aside our ego, they can be easily like managed. But then I was thinking, if it is so easy to solve, then what are these people fighting about? And I've talked about this earlier, but the main culprit is that we as a society have very low trust in each other. Like we are a very low trust society, to be honest. But now, if you think about it, like why exactly are we a low trust society? So I think it has a lot to do with our community or the society that we have created. If it's having low trust in each other, and I think based on my understanding, it is probably because how we have shaped our communities. So the textbook definition of a community is a place you share with other people and they care about each other in some way or another. But when I think about it, I actually do not see this community around me. I rarely see people caring about each other. Like, and that's to an extent that I feel that it is probably a very idealistic concept and not very real. Because in a community where you care about each other, you look out for each other, right? You have some responsibility towards the other person, even if it is to a little extent. And that is one thing that I do not see around myself. Like even in the society that I stay in, there are frequent fights between people who are tenants and people who are living permanently here. And I feel a lot of those fights are because number one, there is partly due to ego, but there's another reason. The people in general lack compassion towards one another, which is essential for a healthy community. Because you can live in an apartment in a community, so to say, but if the members do not have compassion towards one another, if let's say you are sick and you have no one to sort of come forward and help you, then will you really call it a community? Or your kid playing outside and you fall over and you're bleeding, but let's say if no one comes to help you other than your parents, are you really living in a community? Because I think in urban centers like Delhi, Bangalore, Mumbai, a sense of belonging is not there. Like and even that is true for rural areas as well. Because with compassion comes belonging. Like if you're living in a healthy community where people are compassionate about one another, you create a sense of belonging, where you are not feeling as an outsider, or you know that you will be accepted the way you are. You don't have to hide yourself, and you believe that you are part of this group, even if it's a small group. So, due to this lack of compassion and belonging, the trust level in a society decreases. Trust is expecting people to behave in a predictable, fair manner. Now, trust is very different from friendship, because you cannot be friends with everyone. In the current generation, you probably won't have more than 20 friends. If you're thinking about typical urban communities, like book clubs, reading clubs, running clubs, they require a consistent effort. Like you have to be there every week or you have to be there consistent. And this is not just an issue with urban centers. So in a village, community comes to you automatically, like you're already part of a group. But they also have some cons as well. Less freedom, an intense control, because in villages, there is an invisible boundary of caste that you have to follow, which keeps everyone as a prisoner. And to maintain a group's supremacy, everyone is expected to stay within a boundary. So essentially, villages have a stronger community. Now, coming back to urban cities, just let me ask you a question. Like, how many of you think that a stranger will have good intentions? Chances are you are very skeptical. Because in a low trust society, skepticism is very common, and ultimately it is skepticism which further reduces the social trust. And it is very common for low trust societies to have high level of corruption, very weak law enforcement. So I'm sure, and I'm not trying to generalize, but we as common people have probably heard about it, how government institutes are usually you have to pay a bribe in there. And even in news, you are regularly seeing headlines where a father had to pay bribe at multiple steps just to get a death certificate for his dead daughter. So corruption is one thing. Then another thing is weak law enforcement, and it's a very common occurrence on roads for the law enforcers to accept bribes. Another thing that I see almost every day is inequality, especially gender inequality. India is one of those countries where the highest level of gender inequality between men and women. Then there comes lack of accountability. Like ask yourself, how many of you are using badly kept roads? Or how many of you have seen a complete failure of public institutions, like broken roads, broken sidewalks, yet you would rarely see any accountability towards the government or towards the people who are supposed to keep it or maintain it. And unfair treatment in such a society is also very common. And by that I mean people who are generally rich will get a better treatment than people who are not so rich. But those extremes should not exist in a society. And when it comes to the biggest evil, I feel that is social fragmentation, whether it be caste, whether it be religion, whether it be the tongue you speak, whether it be region, or in some cases, your political belief. India's problem with this lack of proper community building is deeply cultural and and very structural. And a country of 1.4 billion people cannot be changed by a single idea. So, as individuals, what we can do? Are we supposed to just accept everything and live in a low trust society? Or are we trying to create a high trust society? And a country of 1.4 billion people cannot be changed by a single idea. Change must start from small pockets. And to improve this community building in India, there must be very small, hyper local, and slow solutions. And in my opinion, it is different for different age groups. Uh, for people like me who are young, I feel they should participate more in volunteering activities. They can also join book clubs, or they can also join a run club, or at least in their co-working spaces they can create a high trust micro community. But the problem is that volunteering provides a sense of purpose which is generally missing in those places, because your sense of purpose will give you a sense of identity, because when you're volunteering, your purpose is to provide benefit to the society, to those people who are in need, which is to improve lives of marginalized communities. You also have a sense of responsibility. Let's say you're teaching from 6th to 8th class. So your responsibility is that you have to teach them in a way that firstly they do not get bored and they're also able to grab the topic. And at last, it is usefulness. I'm not sure how many of you feel it, but sometimes I feel that I am probably not as useful as I should be. I'm not an Indian army or in any government institute. So, how can I help my country by not changing my lifestyle a lot? And volunteering gives you one such opportunity. Because if you're able to lift people who are in marginalized communities, you're actually building a community which ultimately can give birth to higher society. So people who are young should actually start volunteering. And I see that in the NGO where I teach on weekends, I see that there's a high attrition. People who are joining are probably having some very high expectations from themselves. Remember 2 years back, I was also having very high expectation where I thought I can bring a huge change in a month. But the reality is it is a very slow change that you're bringing. When it comes to people who are older, you have your middle-aged aunties, uncles, how can they help build communities? I think for them, first of all, we require a common shared space like a park or a gurdwara or a temple, because only in those shared spaces you can share your ideas, you can interact with other people, you can sort of try to understand what the other people is going through or if they're facing any issues in their daily lives. Because once you start building a community, you start improving trust in the society, Ultimately you create stronger institutions, because who is running the government? Those people who were raised in this society, very society that we have created. So when you have people who have come out of these communities, they start to build those institutes. Then only India can break this low trust loop. Because a high trust society, because people who are living in a high trust society, they do not expect others to cheat them, or they're expecting fairness in treatments. But now you may be thinking that we already have parks, right? We already have volunteering groups, so why do we still have this problem? And in from a personal experience, I've seen that there is always some sort of fragmentation which is happening. Let's say you're going to a park, most probably men will stay with men, women will form a group of only women. And if that is not the case, then people from a certain region will group together. Let's say you're from Haryana, Punjab, UP. You will look around you and you will try to be with people who are from your region, or at least people who are speaking your tongue. And then you have the caste issue, because in India it is a very dominant force. Let's be honest, and people usually prefer the same caste. And unless we create a national identity where there is shared rules, shared values, shared culture, and shared purpose, you will not create a homogeneous society. Like how Japan did. Japan used to be very fragmented. They had class, region, and then clan. But Japan brought school curriculum, and then started shared festivals, shared rituals, and ultimately the sense of country overshaded the identity of tribe, which reduced fragmentation. And until you believe in an ideology where you think that it is bigger than the country, then the fragmentation will not go away, because you can let go of your caste, but you won't be able to let go of your region. You can let go of your region, but you won't be able to let go your religion. And if you're able to look past your religion, you won't be able to look past your gender, because only a national identity can keep everyone together. You don't hear about fragmentation in Indian army, but I'm not sure where we're heading. I see a lot of young people joining the volunteer group that I'm part of, and a lot of those kids that I'm teaching, they're very bright, and I do not see fragmentation in them yet. Again, and countries don't become high trust societies overnight. Japan took decades. Singapore, Denmark, USA, they aren't perfect either. And we can do the same. We don't have to transform everything at once right now. People have to choose cooperation over suspicion, fairness over bias, and shared spaces over silos. And India can build a high trust society too, but it has to start with us.